All right, welcome back to the BTN studio or BTN TV. Once again, I'm Michael Baker, executive editor with BTN, and today we have a 3-for-1 special here. So I'd like to introduce Paul Raymond with Conferma, Clive Cornelius with Visa, and Mark Corbett with Thrust Carbon. So we're going to figure out why all three of these gentlemen are sitting here together. So let's start talking about sustainability and talk about how Thrust and Conferma are working together. You have a new partnership. So, Paul, would you like to talk about this partnership?
Yeah, certainly. From Conferma Pay's point of view, we've been looking to try and extend the data points that we actually capture in relation to purchases. And obviously, sustainability is a major requirement now from our customer base. And so what we were looking for is best-in-class partner. And we started talking to Thrust maybe about 6 months ago to see how we could collaborate and cooperate. And on the back of that, now what we've been able to do is launch our first iteration of the product, which is essentially capturing our spend that we get on all of our virtual payments, passing that over to Thrust and getting an emissions value back, which we are going to then be able to display in our mobile application. And obviously, and that's why Clive's here, because from a Visa point of view, that's the third wheel, if you like, in the collaboration as well.
All right, and Mark, kind of what drew you to Conferma as a partner?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, we're delighted this is now live and really rocking and rolling, and fundamentally, we're at a stage where any display and access of emissions is just absolutely vital in educating consumers, at every point of through their traveler journey, through to day-to-day decision making. Because if you don't have that data, if you can't get it easily accessible in a visually engaging format, then how are we going to change our behaviors? How are we going to get to net zero?
Absolutely. And Clive, talk about Visa's role in this partnership.
Yeah, I mean, so for us, it's the kind of link with virtual payments. So we're looking at how sustainability and the capture of the carbon information is there for all of the payment products. Virtual's kind of the newest part of that suite, if you like, but also the most important. We're seeing a bigger uptake. The virtual journey started with the more of the hotel use case. We're seeing that expand with air and rail and even transaction fees from the travel management companies, but also with the work that we've done with Conferma Pay around taking that virtual card and actually putting it into Apple and Google Pay. It means that now you really actually across our suite of products, but most importantly with the virtual piece is that you are able to capture all of your travel program. So therefore, that's why it was so important to make sure that we've got the carbon reporting as part of that virtual package.
Absolutely. That sort of leads to my next question is, we see a lot of different strategies in trying to calculate carbon footprints and to determine things, but kind of how is the payment sector especially positioned to be able to play this role?
Yeah, it's an interesting one actually, because I'd say it's something that we are still doing a lot of research on, because I think that companies have lots of different options around whether it's their supply chain, whether it's their T&E program, there's a whole host of data out there. And the reality is with the regulation that's there, the companies need to figure out a way of capturing all of this. And in the travel sector especially, with companies like Thrust, you can actually go really deep on certain categories to make sure you're giving people the information up front. Now, from a payment perspective, we're also then looking at, what does that mean from a supply chain? Where do Visa play in that space, and where do we actually partner with other companies so that from a corporate perspective, you've got the breadth of data you need to be making the right decisions?
All right, excellent. And Paul, from your customer standpoint, was this something that they were heavily demanding and that you responded to, or are you sort of anticipating increased demand with as regulations appear up and such?
Yeah, a bit of both, I think. So obviously there's a lot of noise around regulation for the larger organizations, particularly in North America, where they're being extremely proactive in terms of, how are you going to manage your emissions? Not easy to manage emissions if you don't know what those are. So from our point of view, that's the first step. I think it's going to be a journey. I hate that phrase, but essentially where we're starting from is no visibility, and what we hope to do over time is get to as close to 100% visibility as possible in terms of the T&E spend and the impact that we've got there. So from our point of view, what we want to do is we want to make our customers as informed as possible. From our point of view, again, payment is absolutely central to that. So it's the only thing throughout all purchasing that you can actually come back to, have a consistent level of data, and then work with organizations like Thrust and Visa to start saying, well, look, this is the impact of the complete spend that you're offering. And you can do it in one place, and you can do it in an automated manner because of the way that the virtual card process works.
All right. And Mark, could you talk a little bit about the challenges of sort of getting kind of unified data around this, especially on the hotel side? Because I've heard there's a lot of different ways, kind of every kind of hotel has their own way of looking at this. So how do you kind of get a uniform presentation of data to present to customers?
Yeah, it's a big question, a big topic. The way we really look at the entire methodology landscape, right? It's finding the right methodology for the right data set. Right, so when we have limited amounts of information, then we are going to rely on more averages and so forth. Some of the trends we've seen, of course, in air, we can really dive into the aircraft type, the fuel burn, and all of these other amazing factors, load factors, cabin occupancy. So we'll get you that most pinpoint, precise number possible. The difference then with hotels is you can get all that information, but when I say you, like, who is that, right? We need people going in and measuring these things. The HCMI is fantastic, GSDC, they're all amazing organizations who are driving that side forwards. Where we then sit is very much as the technology provider, the data enabler, pushing all that data out, right? So it means that when someone's using their virtual card, then all of that just gets processed, captured, automated. Brilliant. And then in terms of the future of hotel reporting, it's then also not just the carbon scores, it's then the other sustainability factors, your water wastage, your net zero commitments, which hotels are committed and moving forwards, which ones maybe are not. And again, where we sit by also working with TMCs and the OBTs, by putting all of this data front and center. If you're a hotel owner and you're seeing you've got a low score on your hotels, then it's, gosh, we need to change that. And maybe it's because they already have good data, they're just not telling anyone about it. Maybe they've got good data that's not verified, and then it puts that pressure on them to do so. And again, everyone in this room who's driving change and challenging the industry to a certain degree as well, helps everyone move forwards, and then ultimately it means the customer, gets a much better experience.
Absolutely, and you really need the information on both sides, don't you? Because you want to have it in front of the travelers so they can make informed decisions, but then you need it in the back end for the reporting. So it's you kind of all
absolutely.
The way around,
we float between all of those environments, and right in the middle of the travel and tech ecosystem.
All right, great. So I want to talk a little about kind of larger trends around virtual cards as well, especially because we're sort of in a new reality in terms of travel, where we're seeing a lot more companies are having, maybe dispersed workforces and having to move in for internal meetings. And so you probably have employees who are now traveling who haven't historically been travelers. They probably aren't issued corporate cards and things like that. So what are some of the new opportunities for virtual cards in this new world that we're living in?
I mean, I don't think they're new opportunities. I think they're opportunities that people are beginning to realize have always been there. But again, obviously I would say that. So we've been talking about virtual payment for 10 years plus. I think what's happened now is that the applications have just become very clear. So if you, like you say, you have got a disparate workforce, how are you actually going to be able to provide them with funds? One of the most interesting things is, corporate responsibility now, when you're sort of in a situation where you can send a traveller to somewhere for a conference or whatever, and typically they would be paying extras and claiming those back. Well, actually, if you were then asked to stay in place for a period of time, how do you ensure that particular traveller, A, has the funds to be able to do that, and B, that you know that traveller is safe? And that again comes back to the payment record. I'll let Clive explain how that all flows through in terms of the technicalities, but for us, what that allows us to see is real-time authorization information coming through. So not it's been billed in 3 days or not it's been billed in 30 days, but the moment that card is tapped, the moment that card is actually actioned, we can see that information. That means me as a corporation, I can say, I'm good, my people on the ground are safe, and they're able to actually remain safe. So I think that's the most obvious piece, but then by extension, it's the mobile application. I know, Clive, you're probably closer to that than I am.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I mean, I think that's Paul and I worked together in my previous company before Visa as well, and I know Paul said he doesn't like the expression, but it has been a journey. You kind of, there was this gap. There was the only central pay product was a lodge card, which has been around for 35 years. And virtual card was the evolution of that to mean that you could add other things that are centrally billed. But it was then, right, how do you expand it to the other payment types? Working with Conferma Pay to add the virtual card into Apple and Google means that it really is endless. Whether it is, as Paul said, while you're on a trip, whether it is all of your on-the-go costs, whether it's a meeting, an event. So meeting and events, a lot of the card payment relied on just things that happened centrally, and they had to give cash to people for the things that were happening while they were there. And we've kind of got a perfect storm in some ways because of the fact that we've evolved the virtual payment to be in the wallet. But we've also actually seen a massive uplift in contactless transactions. So if we look at our own data over the last year for contactless transactions, it's across Europe, it is around 84%
Wow.
of transactions that are now happening in a contactless way, whether that is with a physical card or with a wallet. And of course, the benefit of the wallet over just the tap and pay with the card is that you're not constrained by how much you can spend. You know, it can seriously be any amount.
Well, excellent. Well, gentlemen, unfortunately, we're out of time. I would love to hit some more topics, but thank you all so much for your time today, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll be back for some more interviews in just a bit.